Can y'all hear me now? It helps if I unmute it. It helps if I unmute it, guys. That's what happens. This is what happens to me. All right. Let's try that again. Y'all made it just in time for Diddy. What we did. Y'all should be able to hear that now. Anyways, what I was trying to say is I'm sorry for being late. A lot of y'all were waiting in the wings on YouTube. But there's a bad storm going on behind me. You might hear some of it. So we were worried about power going out, losing internet connection. So I didn't want to start. It might still happen, but you know, we'll see. We'll see. All right, so let's just get started real quick before we do. If you are coming here for the first time, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, please make sure to hit that follow button if you don't already. Before we start on this, I did notice that we had a new member to the YouTube channel. I'm going to just like to call this out. Thank you. Is that going? Did I hit it? Yeah, it should be going. Thank you so much for becoming a member of the team. And I don't know if it's working. I'm just having so many technical difficulties today, but thank you. You don't have to support me financially, but when people do, there's a lot of work that goes into this, and I definitely appreciate it. So those who gift, those who do super chats, become members, you know, just from the bottom of my heart, really thank you. Now, let's just jump right into it because we are 2 days into week 6 and we have some housekeeping items to talk about. First, let's figure out what happened with the juror number 6, right? So defense attorney Alexander Shapiro wanted clarity, right, about what happened with juror number 6. What was the jury told? This morning, the judge gave a straightforward answer, which was that the other jurors were simply told that juror 6 had been excused. No explanation, no details, and importantly, they were also told they could not talk about it, neither amongst themselves or with anyone else. The judge didn't say much more in open court, but he did flag that there's another issue brewing, this time involving juror number 7. He said that matter would be addressed at the end of the day, so stay tuned. Just so y'all know what's going on with juror number 7 is he received an outside text asking if he was juror number 6, indicating that somebody might be doing some stuff on the outside, not necessarily juror 7, but it's enough to have cause for concern. I will also go ahead and tell you, we're going to get there in a second. Somebody said it was a snooze fest in court. It was not a snooze fest in court today. Today, I actually already recorded this video for TikTok. I think that today yesterday RICO started to get proven, and today it was strongly enforced. That's my opinion, and we're going to talk about that. Also, the judge is furious. Carrie just said it at the same time. Great minds. The judge was pissed this morning. We're going to talk about that in a second. The judge was furious this morning, and we're going to and he's got good cause because somebody in the legal team, prosecution or defense, is lying, and we're going to talk about that. But before we do, prosecutors are saying that they are ready to wrap this morning, and I'll tell you because I start taking the notes in the morning and then I don't edit them, so I'll kind of give you a bit of a heads up on what's going on. But U.S. Assistant Attorney Maureen Comey told the court they expect to rest their case as early as tomorrow, which is Wednesday. She added that while the plan is to close things out, it could still spill into Friday morning if needed. Once the prosecution rests, it is the defense's turn to call witnesses. Diddy's attorney Mark Agnifilo told the judge their case will likely take 2 to 5 trial days. He clarified they're still working out exactly how many witnesses they'll call and how long each will take, but that's the current estimate. The judge responded by saying they are now realistically looking at charging the jury sometime next week. And Agnifilo sounds about right. If everything seems on track, we should be entering the final stretch of this trial very soon. But here's what I can tell you. They are behind as of the end of today. They had a person who was supposed to come on, and they didn't. So it might get pushed a day or so. Now, I forgot to show you. Oh, yeah, by the way, real quick for my TikTok friends. I have photos that, stuff that we're going to be showing. There's some really good... I'm going to be showing some stuff that we saw that some of them are kind of new. Some of them we've seen before from the hotel where they raided Diddy's hotel room. We have some new stuff, some stuff that isn't, and then some great sketches today. So if you want to hop over to YouTube, you can see that. Now, don't expect Diddy to take the stand. All right? Don't expect Diddy to take the stand. This is a question a lot of y'all have asked. He's probably not going to testify in his defense. Somebody says the defense stalling. No, this is the prosecution being problematic. I don't know if the defense is stalling. Carrie, we'll talk about more about it, though. I don't think it's the defense. I think it's the prosecution. I think things just get out of hand and then things go longer than they anticipated. But Diddy's legal team told the court that their case would last 2 to 5 days, and that short of a timeline almost guarantees he's not planning to take the stand. Because if he did, it would drag out for weeks. We're talking days of direct examination followed by a brutal cross from federal prosecutors. So there hasn't been any official announcement, but legally, Diddy does have the right to change his mind at any point, right up until the moment the defense rests. But based on everything we're hearing, just don't bet on it. Now, a Kanye update. Real quick, Kanye West, who's now legally going by Ye, because that's an adult name, has officially been added to the visitor list in Diddy's federal trial. If you guys remember last week, he showed up and he was sent to an overflow room, wanting to catch the trial in person. But since he wasn't on the approved list of visitors, he was turned away from the main courtroom, right? Now that's changed. According to the courthouse sources, Kanye's name is now officially cleared. So if he decides to come back, he'll be allowed inside the actual courtroom, front and center, to watch his fellow rapper friend, Sean Diddy Combs, face his trial. Then let's talk about why the judge is pissed, because the judge is very angry. Okay, things got a little bit heated before the jury walked in. Judge Subramanian tore into both the prosecution and defense over a leaked article that exposed details from a sealed court proceeding held last Friday. That closed-door session was labeled sensitive, and the judge had ordered the courtroom cleared and the transcript sealed. But now that confidential information is somehow in the press, and the judge is not letting it slide. He said, well, someone is lying. That's what he said after both sides, Diddy's attorneys and the prosecution, claimed they had no idea how it possibly got out. My money's on the prosecution, on the defense. That's my money's on the defense. Mark Agnafilo said he first learned about the article when the government sent it to the defense team on Monday. The judge wasn't satisfied, said one or more people in this courtroom or designated individuals who were here Friday flagrantly violated this court's orders. He called the leak a serious breach of the court's integrity and made it clear that the blame wouldn't be passed around. The lead lawyers on each side would be held personally responsible. That means Mark Agnafilo for the defense and Assistant U.S. Attorney Maureen Comey for the prosecution. And then came the warning shot, y'all. If this happens again, the court will launch a full-blown inquiry. Subramanian said that he is prepared to order testimony under oath, seize electronic devices from the prosecution and defense, and issue civil or criminal sanctions. He reminded everyone that this trial will not be litigated through the press. The message was loud and clear. If another leak comes out of sealed proceeding, there will be consequences, real consequences. Now, you guys want to know something that's kind of weird? Let's talk about something that's a little weird, okay? Let's talk about something a little weird. Tuesday session kind of had a bit of a delay. You all may remember that yesterday, for the first time, the jury, were able to see actual Freakoff video, footage of Freakoff. It's about 2 minutes of footage total, clips from different ones, but they got to physically watch it. And this was the first time there had been visual, like video, that they watched of these Freakoffs. Prior to that, it's just been testimony and audio. Well, Diddy wanted to see what they watched because, again, this is part of his case. He has to know what they watched so that he can try to, him and his team can kind of try to counter it, right? At least that's the real answer here. But Sean Diddy Combs asked the judge for 10 minutes to review the materials before testimony. Okay. Those materials were the explicit Freakoff videos that the jury saw yesterday. Because the footage is under seal and the monitor at his defense table is visible to the public, the judge let Diddy screen the clips in a private anteroom, right? At 9 a.m., he was still inside. By 9, remember, this is 2 minutes of clips, guys. 2 minutes of actual footage. He said 10 minutes. At 9 a.m., he was still inside. At 9:15, he emerged through a side door. He was licking his lips and rubbing his hands. And bear in mind that while he was watching this, he wasn't in there while his former assistant / substance mule was receiving an immunity order. He chose to go watch the Freakoff videos as opposed to be there in court. Now, on Instagram, we have somebody named Billy who looks like an old man. He's clearly a child. Billy, it's past your bedtime. Go away, buddy. Go away. Your mom doesn't want you in here. We're gonna have to tell her. When you start saying words like "skibbity toilet" and things like that, and the things that he's doing, he wants the attention. Either that, or he's a grandpa trying to pretend. Either way, it doesn't really matter. Go to bed, dude. Anyways, let's talk about what the jury saw and heard. So, clip number one was October 14th, 2012 at the Trump International Hotel and Tower in Manhattan. Prosecutors linked it to a Freakoff with Cassie and Escort, Sheree, the Punisher, Hayes. An invoice under Diddy's alias, Frank Black, showed the room requested for 3 a.m. and Cassie's text confirmed the 3 a.m. meetup. Hayes replied that his fee was $200 cash. Then there was a clip they saw from October 20th, 2012, another clip from December 4th, 2014. Collectively, the jurors watched several minutes of footage. I understood it would be 2 minutes. While wearing headphones, one black female juror furrowed her brow and winced. Another shifted in her seat, hands pressed to her head. Otherwise, the panel kept a poker face. On Tuesday, Diddy's lawyers replayed more than 15 additional minutes during their cross-examination of special agent, which we're going to get into, Delisa Pinland, who narrated summary charts tying videos to texts, hotel bills, flight logs, escort payments. Some jurors actually struggled to stay alert through the dense spreadsheets. One yawned repeatedly at 9:30, while another widened his eyes to stay awake. So a lot of people found it boring, but it's important, and we're going to talk about why. So now let's talk about this guy real quick. So this is his former assistant / substance mule, Brendan Paul. He is supposed to take the stand today, or was supposed to take the stand today. He did not. It'll probably be tomorrow. Before the jury was brought in, Paul appeared in court and immediately invoked his Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination. And basically, he said he will not testify without immunity. The judge, of course, responded by agreeing to sign an immunity order, forcing Brendan Paul to testify under protection from criminal charges. This is the same move prosecutors have used with other witnesses in this case: get the testimony by promising they won't turn around and prosecute. Paul is expected to testify after the jury finishes hearing from a federal investigator who's been walking them through charts and digital evidence tied to Diddy's operations. But Brendan Paul isn't just a normal assistant, right? He's a former Syracuse basketball player who prosecutors allege became Diddy's personal substance runner. He was arrested back in March 2024 at Opelika Executive Airport in Miami. You guys probably remember that, with suspected substance with the white powdery sniffy stuff and the green leafy stuff laced candy in his luggage right before boarding Combs' private jet. Just months after that arrest, he struck a plea deal, just so you guys know what happened, completed a diversion program, and avoid jail time altogether. Probably part of that plea deal unofficially as you testify in this case, I would imagine. He's also been named checked in that $30 million civil suit filed by Little Rod, where Paul is flat described as Diddy's substance mule. And now he'll be taking the stand under oath, under immunity, in front of this jury. And this comes after prosecutors played footage of 3 separate Freakoff videos recovered from a phone tied to Diddy. The clips, which came from Cassie's cooperation with law enforcement, were graphic and brief, 20 to 30 seconds each, but more than enough to spark reactions from the jury. And we talked about that. So now let's get into what happened today. So as somebody said, today in court was a yawn fest. And here's what happened. These aren't glamorous witnesses today, but I'm going to make it where it's entertaining for you guys, or at least interesting enough for you guys to not fall asleep on me or want to click away. And real quick, again, if you're coming in late, you started this late, make sure that to just be aware that this is recorded on the Sean Diddy Combs playlist on YouTube. You can go there and watch it anytime. If you are on TikTok, please tap that screen, get that to 10,000. But also, we're showing photos and stuff today that if you want to see those, you have to go to YouTube to see them. Anywhere else, you guys just stay where they are. And of course, hit the follow button. So today, the session peeled back the luxury curtain and kind of exposed just how much money it costs to fuel Diddy's secret world, and how meticulously he paid to keep it running. Back on the stand was, again, Special Agent Delisa Pinland from the U.S. Attorney's Office of the Southern District of New York. She returned as a summary witness, walking the jury through a staggering collection of records, travel logs, hotel invoices, credit card statements, and internal messages, all of it pointing back to Diddy. And I really feel that today was strong in proving RICO. All right. Now, it started with damage control bills. The jury was shown a December 2015 hotel invoice from the L'Hermitage in Beverly Hills, charging Diddy for linen damage / deep cleaning. The court has already heard that Diddy's hotel rooms were often left soaked in baby oil during freak-offs, and hotels had to do specialized cleanings afterwards and charged him accordingly. Another hotel, the Beverly Hills Hotel, billed him $500 in February of 2013 for carpet and drape damage. And then came a monster of a bill. All right. In October of 2012, the Intercontinental Times Square in New York charged a jaw-dropping, you guys ready for this? This is his damages bill, y'all. $46,000 $786. $46,786 for, quote, loss/penthouse damage. That is more than a lot of people make in a year. And this was in 2012. This was 13 years ago almost. Right? The reservation was under the name Frank Black, one of Diddy's known aliases. The bill was paid on Diddy's Amex, which had a total monthly statement. Ready for this statement for this month? $944,000 was his statement balance in 1 month. And that 46,000 Freakoff mess was just one of those line items. All right. And like, I realize he's wealthy, y'all. But even, I mean, spending that much on a credit card in 1 month to me is mind blowing. I'm sure it can happen, but right, mind blowing. Anyways, Agent Penland detailed how these bills were often paid using. This is important, guys. Listen to this. This is where it gets really important. Okay, Agent Penland detailed how these bills were often paid using multiple bank accounts. All right, some personal bank accounts, some tied to Bad Boy Entertainment, others tied to Combs Enterprises. In one case, a single hotel invoice for a private Freakoff session was split across 5 different accounts, which underscores how deeply embedded this behavior was in Diddy's infrastructure. Okay. And it wasn't just about the messes, though. It was about movement of people, specifically escorts. The jury also saw the August 2009 records for travel and hotel reservations booked for a male escort named Jules, who was flown from LA to New York. His trip was paid for using Diddy's Amex. More tellingly, text messages showed Cassie, Diddy's girlfriend at the time, communicating directly with Jules. In one message, he sends him the return flight information and thanks him. Not only was Diddy allegedly flying in escorts, he was doing it with his girlfriend's help. In September of 2014, another man, this time referenced to as Dave, was flown round trip from New York to LA. The hotel reservation was made under Diddy's assistant, Ellie Maroon. The contact on file, his former chief of staff, Christina Coram. The payment, again, Diddy's Amex. The guest even requested an additional room during his stay, a change that was also paid by Combs' account. Now, how much do you guys think Diddy spent on candles in 1 month? On candles, guys. He bought luxury. I'm going to say this wrong. I have never heard of this before today. They're luxury Diptyque, Diptyque. Some of y'all are laughing. I'm sure I'm butchering that name. But these luxury candles. How much did he spend in a month? 700. No, not that much. Not 100K. Okay, maybe it's not that surprising, but still $740 just for the month of July of 2010. Okay, y'all are. I should not have built it up that way because y'all are guessing some really high numbers. Okay, not that high, but $740 on candles, guys, for 1 month, essentially one night is what that was. Okay, that was on me, guys. That was on me. Another $435 worth of alcohol, which I think is easy to do. The purchase followed a consistent pattern, high-end indulgent, always tied to these alleged freak-off events. Are they sexy time candles? Yes, Kaylee, they are. They are sexy time candles. Diptyque. They are pronounced Diptyque. Thank you, Abby, for letting me know. So if you guys purchase Diptyque candles, know that Diddy purchases the same ones. Okay? Somebody's go to IKEA. Hell, go to the dollar store and get some tea lights. But anyways, doesn't matter. Now, if you're wondering how serious the government is about tying this all together, here's your answer. They're building a racketeering case based on the receipts. The prosecution is arguing that these weren't isolated events. They were structured, planned, and financed over years through Diddy's businesses and inner circle. Every charge on those cards, every room reserved under an assistant's name, every invoice split between company and personal accounts, every escort's travel itinerary. The government says it all ties back to one thing: a pattern of trafficking, abuse, and exploitation that ran underneath the glamour of celebrity. And all of that is now in front of the jury: the money, the mess, the names, the damage. It is no longer about freak-offs, guys. Just about freak-offs. This is federal proof. Now, here's what I want to say about this. This is Diddy's people, his staff, credit cards from Bad Boy Entertainment, Combs Enterprises, making reservations for escorts, which, by the way, is illegal. You know, to have people work, you know, workers with very few exceptions, like Vegas, I think, it is illegal what they're doing. So even him flying to New York, even if everybody was consensual in that, Flying a worker from New York to Los Angeles, that is illegal. And that goes in part of the trafficking thing. Okay. Because it was done for a purpose. Now, let's move on. Jurors were brought back into the chaos of March 5th, 2016. The day Sean Diddy Combs was caught on hotel surveillance, throwing, kicking, and dragging Cassie Ventura in the hallway of the Intercontinental Hotel in LA. And in the hours that followed, the courtroom just saw how far Diddy went to control the fallout. And this is more than we've heard yet, guys. From panic messages to bribes and frantic calls that wouldn't stop. Shortly after the assault, around 11:28 a.m., Diddy called Cassie 8 times in a row. All of them went unanswered. At 11:35 a.m., Cassie took photos in the car wearing sunglasses, her lip visibly swollen. The jury had already seen these images when she testified. By 11:36 a.m., Diddy called her 3 more times, again with no response. Cassie returned 2 of those calls, each lasting about a minute, but Diddy kept calling. He texted her, "Call now," and then followed with another text, "Call me now, the cops are here." Cassie texted back, "I went and checked everything and spoke to security. Jules left, so you're good as long as you don't disturb the other guests. They'll leave you be." Diddy didn't stop. He called 2 more times with no answer. At 12:08 p.m., he called her 3 more times. One call lasted 18 seconds. At 12:09, Cassie called Diddy's longtime security guard, Damian Butler, who is D-Rock, for 22 seconds. Diddy kept pushing. He texted, "You gonna abandon me all alone?" and then called her twice with no answer. He followed that with, "Call me, please," at 12:10 p.m. I'm going to have to deal with my dog in a second, y'all, because he's freaking out. Then Cassie texted him, "I have a premiere Monday for the biggest thing I've ever done in my life. I have a black eye and a flat, fat lip. It was time for me to go. You are sick for thinking it's okay to do what you've done. Please stay away from me. Let me deal with this dog. See if letting him in fixes the problem." Why more? You're being kicked out, just so you are aware. Sorry, guys. He's a problem. So let me get back. So both Diddy and D-Rock. I lost my space here because of him. Let me go back here real quick. I lost my spot because of my puppy. So Diddy and D-Rock both called again. Cassie didn't answer. She later called D-Rock back, and they talked for under 2 minutes. Diddy continued. Call me, help. Over the next 10 minutes, he called her repeatedly. One of the calls connected for about 34 seconds. Cassie also called D-Rock twice during that span. At 12:19 p.m., Diddy texted, "I'm about to be arrested. Thanks." And then again, "If you don't pick up, you'll never hear my voice again." Let me pause there for a second. He beat the crap out of her, and he's saying, like, "Oh, thanks for, I'm about to get arrested. Thanks." Like it's her fault. Like it's her fault that he beat the shit out of her. Right? What the hell? Anyways, he called 5 more times in the next half hour. No answer. Even KK, Diddy's former chief of staff, called Cassie once, again with no response. Then around 2:30 p.m., Cassie texted KK, "This is crazy. He won't stop. Please tell him the neighbors are about to call the police." KK replied, "Got him. We're going down the elevator." D-Rock also texted KK, "Tell him he needs to get out of there before they call the police." Cassie and her ex-best friend, Carrie Morgan, later testified that Diddy showed up at Cassie's apartment after she left the hotel. Cassie texted KK, "Please take away whatever keys he thinks he has." Coram then told D-Rock that she had gotten Diddy back to his LA home by 3 p.m. Even then, Diddy kept calling. After more missed calls, Coram texted Cassie, "Talk to him. He promised me he won't go back over if you will just talk to him for 5 minutes." And then, "Sorry, don't want to be in the middle. Just don't want him to go back over." Minutes then later, between 4:49 and 5:15 p.m., 2 more calls came between Diddy and Cassie that were connected, one for 18 seconds and another for 10. Then that same night, this is all in one day, guys. This is all in one day. That night around 5:30 p.m., Cassie was on 2 calls with Diddy's assistant, Ellie Maroon. Around the same time, she also spoke to Diddy. At 5:52 p.m., KK texted Maroon, "I'm going to ask just to cover damages." Maroon replied, he wants to speak Spanish. He wants to speak to Spanish security guard. KK then advised, "Say they had a fun drunk night and try to get more info." The assistant shot back, "LOL, no shot. They aren't playing nice." Calls continued between Diddy, D-Rock, and Cassie into the evening. At 6:55, Carrie Morgan texted KK a photo of an LAPD business call and said, "I don't think anyone should call her. She was looking for anyone to say the wrong thing so she can call domestic abuse. And Cass just asked me to send you that." At 7 p.m., Cassie answered calls from both D-Rock and KK later that night around 9:55 p.m. KK asked Marone, "Did you get security number? PD is asking." She responded, "Wouldn't give it to me. What is Eddie's last name?" All right. Again, I'm going to pause. When we talk about racketeering, when we talk about RICO, the conspiracy, he beat her, tried to cover up. There's bribes, and all of his staff are trying to get a hold of these people to, number one, prevent from getting him arrested, and to also get a hold of those tapes. All right. It wasn't just between Cassie and him and these security guards. This is his staff doing everything. He's spiraling, as somebody just said. He's freaking out, right? So then on March 7th, the jury saw a series of calls between Diddy and the former Intercontinental security guard, Eddie Garcia. Garcia had the only copy of the surveillance video showing the hallway assault. That afternoon, he met Diddy, signed an NDA, and accepted $100,000 in exchange for the footage. Form took a photo of Garcia's driver's license at 2:21 p.m., a photo that was later recovered from her phone. That same day, around 2:30 p.m., Cassie made several calls to Diddy, D-Rock, and her apartment building, the Comstock. She and D-Rock briefly spoke again. She then texted Morgan, "I should have sued." Morgan replied, "Totally." Later that afternoon, Diddy called Cassie for about a minute. On March 7th, he also called Garcia twice. One of those calls lasted a minute and a half. Two photos taken later that evening on Cassie's phone showed her and Diddy together. Then the communication still didn't end. On March 8th, Garcia called Diddy for about a minute. Diddy called back later, and it went to voicemail. And on March 9th, they finally connected. Then on March 25th, Diddy called Eddie Garcia again. The damage was done, but the effort to clean it up had been intense, calculated, and very, very expensive. Prosecutors reminded the jury of Diddy's text the next day, or the text that day. I'm sorry. "I'm about to be arrested, and if you don't pick up, you'll never hear my voice again." Diddy was never arrested for the 2016 assault, and Cassie stayed in the relationship for 2 more years. But now, nearly a decade later, the surveillance video, the bribe, the swollen lip, the nonstop calls, and Cassie's own words are finally being seen and heard by a jury. Then there was another round of disturbing explicit evidence in this federal trial. And once again, the public was shut out. Jurors were shown over 15 minutes of X-rated Freakoff footage, this time played by Diddy's own defense team, as part of their cross-examination of Special Agent Delisa Penland. These videos were first shown weeks ago to Cassie during Cassie Video's testimony, where she described being coerced into relations with male escorts while Diddy watched and often filmed. The footage played Tuesday spanned 3 dates: October 14th, 2012, October 20th, 2012, and December 4th, 2014, what we talked about earlier. According to Cassie, all 3 videos were recorded during what Diddy dubbed freakoffs, and in them, she can be seen engaging in acts with male escorts. Encounters, she testified, were orchestrated and controlled by Diddy while he pleasured himself from the sidelines. This time, the jurors were given headphones to hear the audio while viewing the sealed footage on the monitors near their seats. The media and public were explicitly blocked from seeing or hearing any part of it due to the graphic content. At least 2 jurors again showed physical discomfort. One shifted in their seat, another scratched at their face, but for the most part, they kept their reactions pretty contained. Now, as the video played, Agent Penland also continued presenting summary charts. Visual aids helped to design the jury connect the dots across years of records. These included text, flight logs, hotel bills, and calls linking Diddy and Cassie to multiple escorts and travel arrangements around these freakoffs. Then one of the records showed a 2012 hotel invoice from the Four Seasons in LA showing a almost $7,200 charge, $7,192 charge for just a 2-night stay. Prosecutors highlighted an additional $495 fee for a second room, which they suggested was used to host the freakoff. Flight logs also showed that Clayton Howard, the escort known as Dave, was flown in by Diddy from New York to LA at the exact time, further tying the hotel charges to these encounters. But not everyone in the jury box was hanging on every word. Observers noted multiple jurors fighting to stay awake. Around 9:30 a.m., one male juror yawned and rubbed his eyes. Another yawned later, while a third widened his eyes to try dramatically in an effort to try to stay alert as the dense spreadsheets and texts were read aloud. The spreadsheets of text and logs were read aloud. Then jurors were shown text message between Cassie and Guerin, the founder of the escort agency Cowboys for Angels from back in 2012. That's the same agency that, by the way, if you all didn't know, this was featured in the Showtime series Gigolo, which is how they found it in the first place. Cassie expressed concern about the show exposing what was happening behind the scenes. We know you guys are shooting the show out there. Garen tried to calm her. We wrapped the show about a month ago. No filming, and the guys don't follow people around. It's reality TV, so it's all fake. Which, by the way, fun fact, reality TV is all fake. For those of y'all who don't know, fun fact, I'll share this real quick personal anecdote for you guys who didn't know this. Tomorrow is my wife and I's anniversary. We will have been married 14 years. It'll be together 19 years later this year. And we were married on reality TV on a show on CMT. You can get to it by going to my link tree. It's at the very bottom if you want to bore yourself for 30 minutes. It was on a CMT show called The Ponderosa. And I can tell you all the drama that you see is manufactured. I can tell you that, like, first off, it's all manufactured, just so y'all are aware. Anyways, he also added that he is very strict with the men for many parts of his private. Thank you guys, of your private clients. Then in another reveal, the jury saw text messages before Diddy and the contact saved as NY Strip. These messages were sent days before a December 2009 hotel stay. Conversation showed Diddy working to coordinate a session with a woman he referred to as a massage gift. She's saying, quote, "Can you let me know if there's a problem so I have time to get her another present?" That's what Diddy wrote. Things got tense later in exchange when both Diddy and the contact asked if the other was a cop, hinting at the sensitivity and criminal risk tied to the arrangement, meaning they knew what they were doing was illegal. Right? Now, what we saw in court today wasn't just the explicit footage or awkward text, it was strategy. The defense played the Freakoff videos to undercut how the prosecution is presenting them, possibly trying to desensitize the jury or reframe the entire tone. With every clip, every message, every bill, the image that continues to form is one of methodical planning, coercion, and cover-up. Even as Diddy's lawyers try to muddy the waters, the prosecution is still stacking timelines, receipts, and messages that all lead back to the same thing: a multiple years, multiple decades long pattern of approach, and a man at the center of it who controlled everything. Now, from here is where they took lunch. Where they took lunch. And again, this shows how many people knew about what was going on. A lot of his staff involved in setting it up, involved in covering it up, involved in orchestrating everything, and coming from money, not just out of Combs' personal accounts, but from his business accounts, right? So, lunch comes back. Real quick, actually, I want to pause real quick. And by the way, I meant to talk about this earlier when we were talking about the hotel damages. I want to show you all this real quick. Again, if you are on TikTok, you'd have to jump over to YouTube to see this. There were some additional photos that came out today. Some of these we've already seen before. Some of them we haven't, but I'm going to go through them very quickly. These are things that were taken by the feds when they raided, and we get to see a bigger picture of the hotel room that he was kind of staying in, or part of it. So these are all things that were recovered from the raid at the hotel room on the day of his arrest. So again, he was setting up for a Freakoff when he was arrested. So this didn't stop, y'all. Didn't stop. Even when he knew he was facing federal charges, he'd flown to New York for the specific purpose, the explicit purpose of knowing he was going to get arrested and trying to make it easier on himself and everybody else. He flew to New York, still setting up a Freakoff. So I'm going to show these pictures. This is one of some of the baby oil bags that they have that he brought. This is additional lube and lighters and pills and stuff. You can see the substances he kept in bottles. Seeing more of the substances in bottles. More baby oil. Lots of baby oil. His money pouch. Look how much money is in that pouch. You see like 100 on the opposite side of the Visine. That's so much money in cash. Oh, that's so much money. Keep going. This is his clonazepam. Here's what I know that this can be done. I need somebody to explain to me how you get this done. How does he get a prescription under the name Frank Black when that's not his name? I guess if you're paying cash, it's not going through insurance. Somebody says 9,000 cash. Yeah, there's $9,000 in cash. That sounds right. Thank you, Carrie. That does sound right. Anyways, first client, how do you? I don't know how you get a doctor to write it for your thing unless you're paying off the doctor. Just saying. And here's the hotel room. This is one room of it. Like, this is just kind of going into the living area, and you can kind of see what they've stacked some of what they found on it. But it's, and overall a pretty nice, pretty luxurious room, right? So I just want to show that to you guys real quick. Again, if you came in late while I was doing this, you can always rewind. This is on, on YouTube under the Sean Diddy Combs playlist. So that being said, let's add this back in and we'll keep going. So after lunch, the attorneys leaned heavily into cross-examining. It was their time. Delisa Pinland, who is the person who's been on the stand. She confirmed that all 5 of the explicit S tapes shown to the jury yesterday were recovered from a user profile labeled Frank Black. If he was a subscriber on the payroll, that would make sense. In one of Cassie Ventura's personal devices, she emphasized that the videos had been sealed due to their graphic content, and again reiterated that they were sourced directly from Ventura's own accounts. These videos reportedly show Cassie sleeping with a male escort while Combs watched and recorded. The setup that's now become the infamously known as Freakoff, right? But on Tuesday, the defense seized a moment to pivot away from Cassie's claims of coercion and abuse and towards what they framed as consensual, even enthusiastic dynamic between the two of them. Defense attorney Tenny Garrigo spent most of the afternoon reintroducing a flood of text messages between Combs and Ventura, messages that the jury had seen before, but are now revisiting with a new narrative. In one highlighted exchange from February 2013, Combs messaged Ventura, maybe one of those nights, which she replied, yes. In another, she explicitly wrote, baby, I want to FO, meaning freak off, so bad, using FO as shorthand for freak off, obviously. Garrigos pointed to jurors to several instances where Ventura appears to be planning the logistics of a freak off with Sean Combs. Even initiating the idea or responding flirtatiously to Combs' suggestions. In some messages, the tone is even romantic or explicit. In others, it sounds transactional or strategic. This line of questioning basically is trying to fit into a broader strategy that Diddy's legal team has leaned into throughout the trial, which is undermining these victims, Cassie in particular, but undermining their credibility and reframing these freak-offs not as acts of coercion, but these were consensual encounters between consenting adults. It's just an unconventional relationship. They like to swing. That's what defense is trying to paint the picture of. And defense is claiming that Cassie was not forced, not given substances, not trafficked, but rather was a willing participant who expressed her desires and engaged in the acts to please Combs or maintain the relationship. However, if you remember Cassie's earlier testimony, it directly contradicts the framing that they're trying to do, right? She told the court that while she did send messages appearing to show excitement or engagement, she was often faking interest just to keep Diddy calm and avoid violence. According to Ventura, Combs regularly physically abused her, and the emotional toll left her feeling trapped. She testified that her consent was never real. It was just survival. And if you've been following me, guys, from the very beginning, you know my thoughts on this. You know what I've said. We have between all platforms right now, we probably have 1,400 people in these rooms and whatnot. How many of y'all have been victims of abuse? How many of y'all have been in abusive relationships and you go along with whatever they want to do just to keep your sanity, just to keep you from getting hit or abused or to avoid a fight, right? I grew up in that environment, right? How many of y'all have had to deal with that? It's very common. And so I feel like when his defense team is trying to paint this picture, it's really kind of doing a poor job, because anybody who knows that, which maybe the jury doesn't know that, knows that that's what you do. If he's got people on that jury who have been in those situations, they know that's what you do. You do it to survive, right? You do it to survive. And that's what Cassie says that it was. Nevertheless, despite the defense's attempt to use Cassie's messages to their advantage, the prosecution appears confident in the broader digital footprint that the videos recovered from Cassie's device and tied to a Frank Black alias remain key pieces of evidence. Prosecutors are arguing that the very existence of those recordings shows a pattern of control, voyeurism, and degradation that Combs orchestrated. Whether the jury sees Cassie's past messages as evidence of willing participation or as a desperate compliance of an abused partner, that could become a pivotal issue in the trial's overall outcome. All right. New picture for you guys. I love this picture. For those of y'all who are on TikTok, you can't see it, but I love this picture because the sketch artist got the Punisher in here, like looking at the screen. I'm telling y'all, the sketch artist has been on it lately. She really is. Again, if you're on TikTok, you'd have to jump over to see it. I'm going to leave this one up for a minute because I like this one. It's just Jeff's kiss, y'all. But during cross, Tenney questioned Delisa Moore about one specific incident tied to New Year's Eve in 2016, 2017, which is a night that had surfaced earlier in the trial through testimony from Deontay Nash, who was, if you guys remember, a longtime friend of Cassie and really Diddy. He was a stylist. Nash previously told the court that during the New Year's trip to Las Vegas, he saw an unfamiliar man enter Cassie and Diddy's hotel suite, implying a potential freakoff or trafficking incident. But when Geragos asked Agent Penland if she had found any documentation or digital records verifying a meeting around that time, Penland said that she had not. No emails, texts, or digital markers confirmed any activity tied to a New Year's event in 2016 or early 2017. The defense used this gap in evidence to cast doubt on Ventura and Nash's accounts, another small attempt to poke holes in the prosecution's narrative. After hours of combing through explicit messages and questioning the digital evidence timeline, Geragos formally ended her cross-examination of Penland. The prosecution then announced plans to conduct a brief redirect with Emily Johnson, Assistant U.S. Attorney Emily Johnson, stepping in to clarify and reinforce key portions of Penland's earlier testimony. As of now, Penland remains a central figure in establishing the digital trail. Today was very, very important. From the recovery of the Freakoff videos to the extensive catalog of texts exchanged between Cassie and Combs, the defense leaned heavily into texts that appeared to be flirtatious, enthusiastic, or even loving, pushing the idea that Cassie wasn't a victim, but rather a willing participant. Prosecutors are now working to reframe those same messages through the lens of manipulation, control, and trauma. As her redirect continued, Emily Johnson brought the courtroom back to one of the darkest moments in Cassie's relationship with Combs, the March 2016 assault. Johnson walked the jury through a damning series of messages exchanged between the two in the days following the alleged beating. In one text, Combs wrote to Cassie, "Baby, I can't say it enough. I am so sorry." Later that same day, Ventura replied, "I still have crazy bruising from Friday. I would be a dummy to subject myself to that possibly happening again. When you get fucked up the wrong way, you always want to show me that you have the power and you knock me around. I'm not a rag doll. I'm somebody's child." It's heartbreaking, that comment. The messages cut through the defense's earlier attempts to reframe Ventura as an eager participant and in their escapades. Here, in her own words, unmistakably those for someone expressing fear. You can't mistake it, that this is somebody expressing fear, trauma, and the pattern of abuse she says Combs inflicted on her for years. And with that final exchange, Delisa Penland was dismissed from the stand, which ended a full day of testimony centered around the digital footprint that prosecutors say tie Combs to trafficking, physical violence, and psychological control. Now, we're not done, but we're close to done, guys. And this is a great picture, though, for those of y'all watching it. Just good job. Good job, court sketch artist. So at the end of the day, Judge Subramanian dismissed the jury, instructing them to return tomorrow at 9 a.m. Court was not out for everyone, though. They cleared the courtroom for a sealed proceeding, citing an application he had received earlier. While he didn't specify what would be discussed, it appears to be tied to a concern raised about one of the juror, specifically juror number 7, I think, and specifically whether that juror may have discussed the case with a former colleague, which is a serious breach of conduct if proven true. Sources suggest that the judge held a closed-door interview with the juror in question, a move that could potentially result in yet another juror being dismissed following the earlier removal of juror number 6 just a day prior, right? Prosecutors originally told the court they planned to rest their case on Wednesday, but timeline has shifted. By the end of today, they admitted that things took longer than expected, particularly in the extended testimony of Agent Penland. They now expect to continue presenting evidence into Friday morning with no court scheduled for Thursday. So there's no court on Thursday, guys. I think court Thursday is Juneteenth, right? So they're taking the holiday. When court resumes, Brendan Paul, so this should be tomorrow, Diddy's former assistant tomorrow is going to be a phenomenal day. You're definitely going to want to tune in, make sure notifications are on. When court resumes, Brendan Paul, the former assistant / substance mule, is expected to take the stand, and prosecutors say he'll testify about delivering the white sniffy powdery stuff, and K to Combs for years. And if prosecution's case wraps up this week as expected, we could be headed into defense testimony by Monday. So unless more courtroom drama, sealed motions, or juror issues shift the pace once again, we should start having a pretty good timeline, starting pretty much tomorrow. really soon here, basically. Now, that being said, y'all, this is what we have for today. This was a good day. Like I said, people say that it was yawn worthy, and it wasn't. Again, it wasn't one of these like high profile witnesses that was bringing in the insight. This was your pencil pushing desk jockey federal agents that are coming and bringing it together. Hopefully I did an okay job making it less boring, but I think that the information that she was presenting was incredibly crucial and invaluable to the testimony that was going on here, right? Because what we're talking about is everything that connects to RICO, everything that connects to trafficking, right? Because like I said, it doesn't matter whether these escorts were willing, and we're just talking about the escorts in this moment. We're not even talking about like Cassie and Jane and other people, but just the escorts. Not legal to do what they were doing. So just flying them from one to the other, that's technically trafficking, guys. So, you all were wanting to see where are the RICO charges? Where are we getting to RICO? Where are we proving this case? Last 2 days, y'all. Last 2 days. And if you missed yesterday, it was only about a 30-minute recap, and it's on my Sean Diddy Comes playlist if you want to watch that. But again, a lot of this is really showing kind of what's going on and what's up. So again, guys, I'll be back tomorrow. Please do me a solid. If you want to support by doing gifts or subscriptions, please feel free to do that. I will not turn you down. It's appreciated. But if you don't want to do that, that's okay too. Just please hit that follow button or consider doing that. Especially I'm trying to grow Insta, or not Insta. Well, yeah, Insta as well. But I'm trying to grow YouTube to that 50,000 mark. I would love to hit it between the end of next week. I'm still about 5,000 away. So if anybody wanted to follow me on YouTube, again, greatly appreciated. And that said, you guys have a great night. I may be back on later this evening for a live. We'll see. But I appreciate y'all joining me, and we'll be back tomorrow. Bye, guys.